bodybuilders are not athletic. Becoming too muscular can negatively impact your athletics and your aesthetics. Women are attracted to a body that is physically capable, and the bodybuilder type just isn't that. The reason is weight is weight. Whenever it's muscle or fat, weight is weight. There is a difference between absolute strength and relative strength. Absolute strength is strength that is not correlated with your body weight. Well, relative strength is the opposite. It is strength correlated with your body weight. Absolute strength is like a power lifter. They can lift a lot, but they weigh a lot. Well, relative strength is like a calisthenic athlete. They can lift a lot of weight, but they weigh less. So how do you avoid getting too muscular and negatively impacting your athletic movements? Well, there are two ways you can do it. Number one is to avoid steroids. The number of steroid users have increased, and about 30% of gym goers use steroids. Yet, majority of these steroid users are not competing or athletes. So, you're using it for really nothing. Steroids are just bad for you. Increased chances of heart attacks, liver damage, premature balding, and premature death. Yes, it's really bad for your health. But what steroids can also do is build an unnatural, excessive amount of non-functional muscle. This muscle will not only be non-beneficial in everyday activities, but will instead just weigh you down. Overall, taking steroids is a really bad idea. So don't do it unless you're really serious about bodybuilding competing. Number two is stop training like a bodybuilder. There's a difference between training like a bodybuilder and an athlete. If you train like a bodybuilder, you're going to increase stability no matter what means. This means, for example, using a Smith machine instead of a barbell squat. Bodybuilders like to increase the stability in the exercises because it's easier that way. By increasing stability, they're able to isolate that specific muscle group easier. The problem is that this builds non-functional muscle. When you're jumping, sprinting, accelerating, that muscle isn't isolated. It's working in tangent with other muscles. When you're jumping, you're not just using your legs. There are a lot of muscles involved in just jumping alone. But what bodybuilders do is isolate that muscle group. So your muscles now don't know how to work with each other. Doesn't matter how much muscle you build. If you can't use it, it's useless. For example, if you hack squat, you build an unnatural amount of muscle in only your legs. This is useless because, for example, if you're doing an air squat, you will not have the stability of a hack squat to, let you air squat. And so you probably can't do it. It doesn't matter how much muscle you have. It matters if it's functional or not. If it's not functional, it's useless and it's dead weight. And as I said before, muscle weighs more than fat. So you're going to become unathletic because that muscle is going to weigh you down. So how do you train like an athlete? Well, you do the complete opposite. You increase the demand for stability. What this means is doing a regular barbell squat with no lifting belt rather than doing a Smith machine squat, a leg press, or a hack squat. If you do a regular barbell squat, the demand of stability is greater because you're using your core to stabilize rather than using the back of a hack squat or the seat of a leg press. This will mimic most athletic movements because while you're jumping, you're not just using your legs. While you're sprinting, you're not just using your legs. Yeah. You're using multiple muscle groups at once to perform athletic movements. And compound movements such as the squat, the deadlift, use multiple muscle groups at the same time. This is why athletes will oftentimes take a weightlifting training program in order to improve athleticism. However, they do not include isolated movements like a seated preacher curl. They instead only include compound exercises such as the deadlift, bench, and squat because these movements are actually useful in athletics. Athletes need to use multiple muscles at once, and by doing compound exercises that have a demand for stability, you're able to mimic what they're going to be doing in their sport. What's the point of building muscle if it has no function? This is what bodybuilders will do. And this is why, even though bodybuilders are so muscular, they're weak. Bodybuilders focus on hypertrophy, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, they build an unnecessary amount of non-functional muscle. So they're going to look mean, but they're not going to be mean. So in conclusion, the difference between training like a bodybuilder and an athlete is very simple. stability. Bodybuilders will reduce and eliminate any form of stability possible, which means they'll use a Smith machine, a hack squat, a seated preacher curl, rather than doing the exercises standing up and with no stability. Well, an athlete will use their own core as stability. They will focus on compound exercises because those compound exercises are actually useful in real life activities. So in summary, this video is to tell you to train more like an athlete, focus on your compound lifts, and ditch easy seated isolation exercises. I say seated because if you plan to do isolation exercises, I recommend you do them standing up because they have some actual use. But, of course, you can choose. A bodybuilder will look mean but can't even throw a kick, and an athlete, they look mean and they are mean. So choose one.